Hello, this is Amber Cook, and I will be reading my report describing the research I did on air quality in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and how the air quality has affected the citizens of Milwaukee's respiratory health. It is well known that there are pollutants in the air that can cause harm to human health. Different areas of the United States have different concentrations of these harmful chemicals in the air. Milwaukee, Wisconsin is the largest metropolis area in the state, thereby contaminated with many pollutants. This research project is proposed to determine and explore how the pollutants in the air of Milwaukee, Wisconsin may affect the health and safety of its residents. The problem and potential solutions to poor air quality in the U.S. has a rich history. The Clean Air Act was sanctioned in 1970 and is a federal law that regulates air emissions from stationary and mobile sources. One of the main goals of this law was to allow the Environmental Protection Agency set and achieve the National Ambient Air Quality Standards in every state by 1975 in order to protect the public from welfare risks posed by certain pollutants. For example, levels of primary carbon dioxide are not to exceed 35 parts per million in any given hour. The Act was amended in 1977 and 1990 to set new goals and deadlines, as many areas in the country failed to meet deadlines that were set at the earlier date. As the public became more educated regarding the potential hazards of these chemicals found in the air, efforts to minimize pollution continued to arise over time. Several tools are still used today to alert the public regarding threats to their health status. Air quality of a certain area is based upon several different factors. The Air Quality Index is a tool used by a number of government agencies to help educate the public regarding how polluted the air is and how polluted it is predicted to become. As the AQI increases, an increased number of people are likely to suffer adverse health effects from breathing the air. The AQI was developed in 1968 by the National Air Pollution Control Administration of the Government of the U.S. They undertook an initiative to develop an air quality index in order to draw public attention to the issue of air pollution and also to push responsibility on local officials to take action against the sources of that pollution. Each country has their own specific AQI that measures concentrations of pollutants in certain areas. The United States' AQI is managed by the Environmental Protection Agency and is used daily to report air quality. It is divided into 6 categories: 0 to 50, or green, meaning the air quality is good; 51 to 100, yellow, meaning the air has moderate quality; 101 to 150, orange, means the air is unhealthy to some populations; 151 to 200, red, meaning the air is generally unhealthy for all; 201 to 300, purple, meaning the air is very unhealthy; and 301 to 500, maroon, meaning the air quality is hazardous. The AQI is based on 5 pollutants as defined by the Clean Air Act: ground level ozone, particulate matter, carbon monoxide, sulfur dioxide, and nitrogen dioxide, all known to cause toxic effects even in small concentrations. So to talk about available tools to measure air quality and the health implications, I took some information from a tool called the Air Quality Health Index. It's used in Canada to understand the impact of air quality on health specifically. So it's used to make decisions to reduce short-term exposure to air pollution by adjusting activity levels during increased levels of air pollution. The index also makes suggestions that people can follow to reduce emissions, thereby improving overall air quality and health. It also provides information regarding how to protect one's health during times when the air quality levels are low, moderate, high, and very high health risks. The index provides a number from 1 to 10 to indicate the current health risk associated with local air quality. A low risk is indicated by 1 to 3, moderate health risk by 4 to 6, high health risk by 7 to 8, and very high health risk is indicated by a level above 10. For the general and at-risk populations, the index relays certain activities that should or should not be performed when the risk is at a certain level. At-risk populations consist of children and the elderly, people with existing respiratory or cardiovascular conditions, such as asthma, and people suffering from diseases such as diabetes, heart disease, or lung disease. Children are more more vulnerable to pollution in the air due to their underdeveloped respiratory and immune systems. Seniors have weakening respiratory and immune systems and are therefore also at risk. People with existing disease may experience new or worsening symptoms of their disorder when exposed to the pollution. The AHIQ, the HQI, the AQHI is formulated based upon the relationship of nitrogen dioxide, ozone, and fine particulate matter. All three of these pollutants can lead to health problems in humans. This tool does not measure the effects of odor, pollen, dust, heat, or humidity, also potentially aggravating air components. So next I'd talk about the pollutants specifically measured in Wisconsin and the health implications of each of these pollutants. First is carbon monoxide, a colorless, odorless, tasteless gas. It can temporarily accumulate at harmful levels, especially in calm weather. Sources of carbon monoxide include automobile emissions, home and building heating, volcanoes, thunderstorms, forest fires, vegetation during various growth stages, and the chemical transformation of methane. The federal standard for carbon monoxide is 35 parts per million. All counties in Wisconsin, including Milwaukee County, where Milwaukee, Wisconsin is located, meet this standard. However, when carbon monoxide builds up within the body, it reduces the amount of oxygen a molecule of hemoglobin can carry. This leads to decreased oxygen to vital organs such as the brain, nervous tissue, and heart. The affected individual may feel dizzy, nauseous, or have a headache. If levels reach high enough, a person can lose consciousness or even die. The second pollutant measured in the air is lead, a toxic heavy metal. Sources of lead emissions include waste oil and solid waste incineration, iron and steel production, lead smelting, and battery manufacturing. Since regulatory efforts were enacted to remove lead from gasoline, lead emissions from vehicles were reduced by 94% between 1980 and 1999 in Wisconsin. The health-based standard for lead is 0.15 micrograms per cubic liter. All counties in Wisconsin also meet this standard. Until 2010, these measurements were not performed on lead particles in the air, but the EPA has revised their standards to now include measuring lead particles in the ambient air. Lead poisoning can lead to permanent bodily damage, including poor muscle coordination, nerve damage, increased blood pressure, hearing and vision impairments, reproductive sterility, and mental retardation. Young children are most vulnerable to these health problems. The third pollutant measured in the air of Wisconsin are nitrogen oxides. Nitrogen gas is normally found in the air, but at high temperatures and under certain conditions, it can combine with oxygen to form several gaseous compounds. Most important are nitric oxide and nitrogen dioxide. Major sources of nitrogen oxides include fuel combustion in power plants and automobiles and processes used in chemical plants. The EPA first began to set standards for monitoring nitrogen dioxide in 1971 and has since then chosen to keep the standards the same. To protect public welfare, levels of nitrogen dioxide must stay below 53 parts per billion annually. Again, all areas of Wisconsin adhere to this standard. Current research has shown that short-term exposure to nitrogen dioxide, ranging from 30 minutes to 24 hours, leads to adverse respiratory effects, including airway inflammation in healthy people and exacerbation of disease in those with chronic conditions such as asthma. Other nitrous oxide particles in the air can penetrate deeply into the lungs to cause respiratory diseases such as emphysema or bronchitis and heart disease, leading to premature death. Sulfur dioxide is the fourth pollutant measured in the air of Wisconsin. Sulfur dioxide is a group of highly reactive gases largely emitted by fossil fuel combustion in power plants and other industrial facilities. The 3-hour average standard is currently under review as health risks have now been shown to be associated with short-term exposure. Even 5 minutes of exposure can lead to adverse respiratory symptoms, especially in those who are asthmatic already, or in those who are exercising, or when kids are playing. Studies also show a connection between short-term exposure and increased visits to ER departments and hospital admissions for respiratory illnesses. Particle pollution or particulate matter is also measured regularly by the state of Wisconsin. These are solid or liquid particles suspended in the air. Fine particles are the main cause of reduced visibility in urban areas such as Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Particles can be carried over long distances and settle in the lungs of someone who lives far away from the epicenter of the problem. This is particularly disturbing as research has shown particle pollution can lead to premature deaths in people with heart or lung disease, non-fatal heart attacks, irregular heartbeats, aggravated asthma, decreased lung function, and an increase in respiratory symptoms. Last of the 6 common pollutants is ozone, a gas that occurs in Earth's upper atmosphere as well as at ground level. When at ground level, ozone plays a big role in smog and poses serious health risks. Breathing ground-level ozone can lead to respiratory symptoms, inflammation of the airway, coughing, throat irritation, pain, burning or discomfort in the chest tightness, wheezing, and shortness of breath. With increased exposure, it has been found that hospital admissions, doctor visits, and school absences all increase. Eventually, these symptoms can lead to death. So to specifically talk about the city of Milwaukee, Milwaukee is the state of Wisconsin's largest city with a population of approximately 599,000 people. The population density is 6,188 people per square mile, which is almost double that of the capital city of Madison. How does a large city in the state fare among these national standards of pollution? According to a recent report, State of the Air, generated by the American Lung Association in 2014, Milwaukee County does not fare well. The county received an F with regards to pollutant ozone, meaning that the air is very unhealthy and highly polluted with ozone chemical. There were approximately 11 days in the past year during which the ozone level was high and therefore posed great health risks. However, this value has decreased by 3 days since 1996. So Milwaukee County is improving, but it's still very high and gets a bad grade. Milwaukee County also received a C with regards to particle pollution. This is below the passing standards of federal regulations as well as the standards set by the American Lung Association to protect citizens' health. Again, the number of high particle pollution days has dropped significantly by 7 days since 2000, but remains high. The fact that this county, and especially the city of Milwaukee, are not deemed as healthy places to live is significant, seeing as how over 18,000 children and 61,000 people living there suffer from asthma. In addition to that, there are 33,000 adults with COPD, over 49,000 adults with cardiovascular disease, and 53,000 with diabetes, as well as over 111,000 elderly citizens who all constitute an at-risk population to these air pollutants. This is a staggering amount of people at risk due to the presence of these dangerous pollutants in the air. Donna Wininski, the Director of Public Policy and Communications for the American Lung Association's Wisconsin chapter, describes how pollutants affect the body. She states, it burns, quote, "It burns the inside of your lung tissue. It is much like getting a sunburn on your lungs, and it can have short-term effects and long-term effects," unquote. Milwaukee County has one of the highest rates of hospitalizations for COPD in the entire state of Wisconsin, with 15 per 10,000 of emergency department visits. When described in this way, it is easy to see why it's so important for cities, states, and the country to be held accountable for adhering to federal air pollution standards. So, distinct risk factors for Milwaukee residents. Due to the especially dense population of Milwaukee, the people who live there are at an even higher risk for adverse health effects. There are at least 13 freeways that surge through the city, leading to an increase in emissions from motor vehicles alone. Individuals who spend time on or near major roadways can experience short-term nitrogen dioxide exposures. Furthermore, housing is often within 300 feet of these major highways, exposing a higher percentage of the population to constant air pollution exposure. The population living near highways is more likely to include a high proportion of non-white, economically disadvantaged people who do not have proper access to health care. Therefore, the population most at risk for adverse health effects secondary to air pollution may not receive the health care they need to prevent further respiratory and cardiovascular deterioration. In addition to the high volume of traffic, there are over 100 manufacturing companies in Milwaukee, thus adding to the air pollution even more. Despite the high pollution levels in the city of Milwaukee, the city has put together initiatives to help keep the air in the city as clean as possible. The first is called Milwaukee Shines, a solar energy program aiming to ensure environmental sustainability. It was formed in 2008 and has since then helped Milwaukee to produce over 1.25 million watts of solar energy. The group works on projects with a plethora of local schools and businesses in order to promote cleaner air and an overall more sustainable future for the city. Various groups of the city, including the Office of Environmental Sustainability, put forth initiatives regularly to ensure adherence to federal standards. Thomas P. McElliott is a lawyer in Milwaukee with a strong educational background in all aspects of environmental law. He is well versed on federal standards and helps new businesses and residents obtain permits regarding air, water, and buildings. Taken directly from the website of the Law Office of Quarles and Brady, LLC, the firm at which Mr. McElliott works, states that, quote, since the passage of the Clean Air Act in 1970, Quarles and Brady attorneys have been advising clients on matters of air pollution control and compliance. As a result of almost 4 decades of experience, we are well versed in the origins of the various regulatory programs and are also familiar with the statutes, regulations, and guidance documents that inform the day-to-day implementation of the Act. We have substantial experience assisting clients as they prepare permit applications and negotiate conditions in operating and construction permits with state, federal, and tribal authorities. We have assisted clients from a variety of industries, including automotive, aerospace, energy, mining, oil and gas, pulp and paper, and steel industry, on a diverse range of issues related to the Act." Unquote. Another advocate group that aims to improve air quality in Milwaukee is called Refresh MKE. The group has written a number of goals related to every aspect of sustainability for the city, including energy, land and urban ecosystems, human capital, mobility, resource recovery, water, buildings, and food systems. So, despite ongoing challenges to improve air quality in the city of Milwaukee, Wisconsin, there's still work to be done. When people go outside, they expect fresh, clean air that refreshes them and is crisp enough to take a deep, cleansing breath. Unfortunately, the presence of pollutants such as carbon monoxide, sulfur dioxide, nitrogen dioxide, lead, ozone, and particles, as well as countless other toxins, prevent the citizens in cities such as Milwaukee from doing so safely. The Environmental Protection Agency and Department of Natural Resources must continually reassess the regulations in place. To preserve the health of the general population as well as high-risk groups, air quality must be improved and remain in that state. No resident should continue to breathe the toxic air caused by increasing use of motor vehicles and industrial manufacturing. Research has proven that pollution does indeed affect the health of Milwaukee's residents, and the city, state, and federal governments should do everything in their power to improve this problem, not only in Milwaukee but countrywide. Earth is a finite place with finite resources that we must take responsibility to preserve and protect.